What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down the 3 mistakes that newer wide receivers make when they are new to the position and they maybe aren't necessarily 100% sure on the route running techniques that they should use. Okay, so now the first thing we're going to be talking about here is forcing a release. So this is, as a young wide receiver, a lot of guys are taught wrong, and a lot of guys are told that anytime that you have an outside breaking route, you want to take an outside release, and anytime that you have an inside breaking route like a post or a dig, you want to take the inside release. Now that is completely false, because when it comes to press releases, that has to do with the DB's leverage, what kind of coverage it is, where your split is, and things of that nature. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So this first release here is going to be a 10-yard out route with an inside release. So a lot of wide receivers that are on the younger side make this mistake. So let's play at full speed. So this DB wants to take away the outside release, right? And we're going to talk about why here in a second and how you can know that before the ball is even snapped. So pre-snap, look, where are you at on the field? That's number one, what you have to think about, right? So look at how far his split is cut down. This is maybe he's like an X wide receiver and they cut his split down, or maybe he's a slot wide receiver. But what do slot wide receivers like to do a lot of, and what do outside receivers like to do a lot of when their split is cut down? And that's run outside breaking routes. This DB is no fool. And if the DB is a fool, his coach is no fool. He knows that when the split's cut down like that, he's probably going to be running an outside breaking route. So he's going to be over anxious to play the outside move. So a lot of wide receivers will just see it. Oh, okay, this DB's head up press, or maybe he's a little outside shade. Even when he's completely outside shade, I'm going to try to give him a move inside and take the outside release. Guess what? If you force the outside release, what that DB would do, and you see how far he's cheating over, he would get hands right into your hip, force you all the way to the sideline, and you'd have no space for that quarterback to lead you. And that is one of the biggest mistakes wide receivers make when they're new to the position. Same thing with the post route. Post route's even worse because you have other routes in the middle of the field. This DB will be lined up inside shade. They'll try to go inside release. He'll get hands and will screw up the whole spacing and the whole timing of the play because you forced the release. Trust yourself at the top of the route. So this wide receiver does exactly that. He does a wide step release, which is when you step with the back foot and you step wide outside that DB's frame to get him to move off the platform, and he takes the inside release. Now, when you take that inside release, I got to either work to restack, or I'm focused on selling vertical so I could get his hips to commit, and then I could work that throw by technique, or I could put the brakes on and slip back under. But the whole point is the quarterback has space to lead me now, and I did not screw up the timing of the play by forcing the release. Okay, so that's a great route here. So first mistake that a lot of wide receivers make is that they force their releases. Do not force the release. You do not have to take an outside release with an outside breaking route or an inside release with an inside breaking route. Obviously, that's ideal, and that's what we want, and if we could get that, we should take it, but if it's taken away, do not force it. Let's watch it again full speed. Great job hitting the wide step, sell and fade, and being violent with those hips to create that separation. Now, we're going to talk about one of the biggest mistakes that wide receivers will make with their breaks, which makes them slower at the top of the route, and this is going to help you guys improve your speed. But before we get into that, fellas, I want to talk to you about a great opportunity this offseason that you guys can come out to. We're traveling to 8 different cities across the United States for quarterback and wide receiver 2-day-long training camps. So we're coming out to Houston, Texas, Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, Columbus, Ohio, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and we're finishing it off in Los Angeles, California. So these are 2-day-long camps, as you can see. We are very excited to come out and get some work in with you guys, and it's 4 hours on each day. So you're going to be getting a lot of detailed coaching. Now, one of the biggest questions we get asked about these camps is, oh, how many kids are going to be out there? There's going to be like another one of those camps where there's 200 kids. My son or me does not get a lot of reps, and it's just 1 rep every single hour. That's not what we're doing. We're limiting spots to only 10 to 12 guys per position group. So the reason why we do that is so we could actually coach you up. If you screw up, we're going to coach you up, tell you what you did wrong and how to fix it. We're going to have DBs out there as well, both days of the camp, to work on one-on-ones, half-line concepts, and the work. So if you feel like this is something that could help you guys out, improve your skills, check out that very first link in the description below, fellas. We'd absolutely love to have you out. The camp is going to be split up into a youth section and a high school college section. So again, any skill level can attend this thing. We'd really, really love to have you out there. Again, very first link in the description below. Let's get back to this video. So now, second thing that a lot of wide receivers will do at the top of the break is that they will reach. They think that they have to emphasize that snap down or that cut at the top of the route. And so many new wide receivers don't understand the principle of what a DB is looking for, right? So I saw this video posted the other day on Instagram, and everybody was saying, oh, what a great route it was. But really, that DB just slipped. That DB was in a position to make a play, and he probably could have made a play because the indicator that the wide receiver gave by reaching out for the break. Now, again, I say this is a lot of mistakes that newer wide receivers make, and it's mainly newer wide receivers that train with me because they're not used to the way I like to coach things. Guys who coach with me or train with me for a while don't necessarily make these mistakes because we heavily emphasize them. But wide receivers at all all levels make these mistakes. So if you're a guy who's sitting there and you have this problem, it's not the end of the world. It's a common thing that you do, because you see even the top recruits in the country are doing this kind of thing. So when he gets to the top of the break here, you see how he reaches out for it, right? Look at his right foot. He's reaching for the depth, and that makes his whole chest pop up in the air. His chin pops up in the air. He's leaning back. Two reasons this is bad. A, that's an indicator. DB knows automatically when he sees this and he sees that reach up and he sees his pad level raise, a break's coming. It's no longer a fade. He is giving away the route, and that's why that DB's in a good position, because as soon as we slow down because we're overemphasizing and stepping way outside my frame, the DB's going to slow down. He's not going to run full speed if he doesn't have to, because he doesn't want to, right? He does not want to get beat on the fade, and he wants to be able to settle, and he wants to be able to get a read on you and get hands. Also, when you lean back like this, you lack speed and explosion. When you guys drop into a break, you want to keep the same pad level. You do not want to raise up. You do not want to reach, because it's an indicator, and you're going to have slow. You're going to drift off of the route a little bit and not be able to drive. So how do we fix this? You got to make sure, fellas, that when we are selling fade, he does something called a peek back technique. For newer wide receivers, I don't recommend this because you want to get the breaks down first. But when he peeks back, that's when he starts to raise. And that's the problem that a lot of older wide receivers get. But you want to keep the same pad level throughout the route. You don't want to be hunched over, but you want to stand up and run, and there is no indicators. You are in full stride, you are in full speed, and you trust your hip drop in stride to get you out of the break rather than reaching out and giving away the route and making you slow. Let's watch this thing again, full speed one more time. So second biggest mistake that young wide receivers, new wide receivers will make is that they reach at the top of their breaks, whether it's a speed cut or a snap down. You want everything to be in stride. Trust the hip drop to slow you down, not the long, over-exaggerated cut. Hope that makes sense. If you guys have questions on that, don't hesitate. Leave that in the comment section, fellas. Watch it again. Great job selling fade at first, but as soon as you raise up, as soon as you extend, that DB's in a good position to make a play. All right, so last mistake that I want to talk about today that a lot of young wide receivers do is they do not know how to sell a crossover or a release off the line by throwing their hip with the cut. So many wide receivers don't necessarily maybe have the flexibility to do this, or have repped the motion or not, or have the hip mobility to do this. But when you guys throw a cut off the line, you have to think about it like you were trying to step outside the DB's frame, but inside of your frame. Okay, so I want to make that very clear. It's not outside of the DB's frame and outside of your frame, because that's what everybody thinks I say when I mention this. It is outside of his frame, inside of my frame. You are bringing your upper body with the cut. So let's watch this thing full speed. So this receiver's doing like a kind of a crossover release off the line, and that gets that DB way off the platform, right? So when he throws this crossover, right, I want you to watch his hip. His hip is attached with the foot. He throws his hip into the break, right? See how he starts out, his feet are pretty close together. He takes that first step of the inside move, and he's pushing off of this and throwing his upper body with the cut. A lot of wide receivers don't do that, and that's why they don't have explosion. Now, why is this important, right? Obviously, you stepping outside the DB's frame threatens him vertical, but the DB should be looking at your body, right? So a lot of receivers will just step, but their body stays over here towards the inside, and they give away where they're going, but also you just don't sell the route with your upper half. Nothing about it looks like you're trying to take an outside release and go run a fade, right? Absolutely nothing about it does. So that DB's not going to move, at least a disciplined DB. And that's what a lot of young wide receivers do. Now, the other thing that they do is that they won't step this far. They'll think that, oh, I got to step inside the DB's frame. I got to keep my feet under my shoulders. Not if you bring your shoulders with the cut. Hip should be attached to the foot. It is a crossover in basketball. You watch all the best wide receivers, they do this. A lot of people will say this is incorrect because you're stepping outside of your frame. It's not outside of your frame unless you make it outside of your frame. If you bring your frame with it, if you can push off of the first step, that's going to get you to a balanced spot, and you will also be able to sell the route. It's about selling the route, but also being able to have explosion and balance, and this is the key position that you want to try to get to. I throw my hip with the cut because that's what sells, and that's what gives me explosion. We got to make sure we're selling. That's a mistake that guys don't make. They don't sell with the foot or the upper half because they step too close, or they leave their body and they step too wide and they have no explosion. So we got to make sure that we combine them both. That is the third mistake that younger wide receivers or newer wide receivers will make. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job with the crossover, throwing the hip and creating as much separation as possible. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any kind of questions about anything that we covered in this video, or any kind of videos that you guys would like to see next, we always appreciate the feedback, and it's always great to hear from you guys, so don't hesitate to leave that in the comments section below. And again, fellas, if you'd like to come out to one of our off-season camps in Houston, Newark, Atlanta, Columbus, Chicago, Dallas, Nashville, or Los Angeles, very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out. I'll see you guys next time.